All right, welcome back to another episode of Small Guys Podcast. Today we are doing a rewind on Moneyball, personal favorite of mine. It's me, Andrew, and Mike today, starting off the new year.
Yeah,
Grinding
happy.
in. They're
Uh,
out there just saving world hunger and stopping world wars, just doing their thing out there.
They're
yeah,
heroes.
some of their New Year's resolutions were to combat. I think one of them's trying to get a cure to cancer.
Wow.
I'm not sure what the other one's doing. Just
They're doing something just world changing. So
yeah,
Stopping global warming and
yeah,
yes.
all that
But
good
welcome,
stuff.
welcome to 2023 to everyone that is
yes,
listening.
there's no
Happy
better
New
movie to
Year's.
do it to than this. So yes, Happy New Year's. And then two, if you're listening to this, before we get into the synopsis, we watched this on Netflix, and as of December 31st, that was the last day this was on Netflix, sadly. So by the time this comes out, January 3rd, it's no longer on Netflix. So yeah, that sucks, but I feel like maybe listening to this episode will make you want to watch it again if you haven't seen it. And if you haven't seen it, please go watch it before you listen to this, because it's a great movie. But to get into the synopsis of this movie, Billy Beane, who's played by Brad Pitt, is the general manager of the Oakland A's. And one day is an epiphany that that basically is faced with a tight budget. His team is faced with a tight budget. Hold on, let me restart. Okay. Billy Beane, played by Brad Pitt, is general manager of the Oakland A's. One day he has an epiphany. Baseball's conventional wisdom is all wrong. Faced with a tight budget, Beane must reinvent his team by outsmarting the rich ball clubs. Joining forces with Ivy League graduate Peter Brand, who's played by Jonah Hill, Beane prepares to challenge old school traditions. He recruits bargain bin players whom the scouts have labeled as flawed, but have game-winning potential. And this movie is based off the book that was written by Michael Lewis. And it's got a 94% by critics and an 86% by audiences.
Really, people like it less than the critics.
Yeah.
Yeah, wait, what'd you say people gave it, Josh? Sorry.
86.
Audiences give it an 86%.
Oh, wow.
Critics give it an 94. Although the audience is only out of 50,000 ratings. I feel like usually Rotten Tomatoes is like 250,000 plus or something crazy like that. So,
Yeah.
for it being a popular movie, I mean,
Still
it's
not a
award-winning.
bad score.
No.
86. I feel like it's probably low because maybe some people at first with this movie, maybe they're just not baseball fans and they clocked out mentally when they were watching it. Although this isn't
It's really
really,
it isn't a baseball like
it's
it's a
not.
baseball movie, but it's really not.
Yeah, it's there's definitely like an underlying tone of like kind of being a small dog and making a comeback, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The underdog. Why did I say small dog? I couldn't think of the fucking word.
Making a Small Guys podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, in the US, this made about 75 million. The runtime's 2 hours and 13 minutes. Sony Pictures movie. But like these guys said, it's not really about baseball. There's a really cool part where we don't really even see an actual baseball game until the last 15 minutes of the movie. We always see them on like screens and stuff like that, but you never really see the actual game being played out in person. Which there's a really cool reason they do that. They do it because the GM who we're following, Brad Pitt's character Billy Beane, feels like he's jinxing the team if he watches them in person. So he watches them while he works out, or barely watches them at all.
Also worth noting, what's actually on the TVs, that it's flashbacks of the actual games.
Yes, yeah. So I think they said 95% of the footage is actual footage.
What a cool way to do that. We should probably give credit to who was that we saw that video in this movie. Do you know who it was off the top of your head,
Yes,
Josh?
yeah. So the channel is called Mr. Sunday Movies. And I believe the guy's name is I got it right here, Ben from Canada. He's a producer for them. It's two Australian guys, and they usually do like comic book related stuff and everything like that. And I've been subscribed to this channel for a long time. They even have a podcast too. But anyway, this editor Ben, they gave him an episode to do because this movie's actually his favorite movie of all time, Moneyball. And what's really funny is, and he says it multiple times, go check out the video too. It's 15 minutes. Moneyball slaps so hard. The three of us just watched it. It's great the way he explains stuff. It's crazy that he's just an editor.
I was going to say, it gives you a lot of insight onto this movie on top of just like watching it and forming your own opinion.
Yeah, yeah. it's really cool because there's multiple times throughout the video that he makes where he says, I know nothing about baseball. I'm not a baseball fan. Yada yada.
He even calls one of the runs scored a point.
A point. Exactly what I was going to say. That right there, him calling it a point, is kind of annoying because we all know it's a home run or run, whatever, right? But that just goes to show that anyone could watch this movie and love it. You don't even have to know that it's called a home run. You can call it a point, whatever you want to do. As long as he still loves the movie, calls it one of his favorite of all time, and knows nothing about baseball, that's insane, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because it is, basically on the outside, judge a book by its cover, it is a baseball movie. Kind of.
Yeah. I mean, it's a sports movie, definitely. Like, it's a baseball movie, but at the same time, like, it's more like Andrew said best, it's more so like an underdog movie where it's just like you're rooting for this small team to win against all these big teams with big budgets, and everything's working against them, and they're going just this outlandish route where no team's ever done it before. And it's a really cool underlying tone. And I think the director, Bennett Miller, I want to say is his name.
Yeah.
He's only done 3 films, and obviously Ben, the video we watched, Ben from Canada, said that, and one of them is Foxcatcher, and that's one of my favorite movies, honestly. I love that movie, wrestler myself, so just kind of resonate with that a little bit more. But it's cool to see kind of just the approach he has when it comes to directing, with all the cool different little nitbits that he has with just some of the scenes that he has in the movie,
and the zooming up on the characters' faces to capture their emotions.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
I think I really liked this movie like right off the bat, because I kind of, in a lot of aspects of my life, I feel like I think how Brad Pitt's character, what is that guy's name in real life? That
Billy Bean.
Billy Bean.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's been a minute since I watched the movie earlier this year, but how he thinks is really how I think about a lot of things. I feel like in real life, like I try to like use data and numbers to try and figure things out and make things more efficient. I mean, I do that in my job already on a day-to-day basis, but I feel like that's how my brain thinks. So it's kind of cool to see that like they applied that idea to like sports.
Yeah.
And it worked, which is really cool. I mean, it's not like they were going with like a mid-level team with a mid-level. They were going with the worst team in the MLB and made it work.
Yeah, I mean, so the year before this movie takes place, which this movie takes place in 2002, it is based off a true story. They lost like their 3 best players, and they're under this rebuild type, situation, and they are the least funded baseball team out of every team in the MLB. I think they said that basically they say at the end of the movie that in the 2002 season, they had the same record as the Yankees, and the Yankees on average had to spend $1.4 million per game played, and the Oakland A's only had to spend $246,000.
Wow.
They have the same record. They did it with 1.2 million less, which is pretty crazy. And that's what's really cool about this movie too, is like, I feel like we've all been in that situation where you kind of go into something where like it kind of seems unfair, or the odds aren't in your favor, and that's kind of what baseball teams are when it comes to their like budget and stuff like that. I mean, the Yankees.
That's how a lot of sports are, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
Well, that's just life, not even sports in general.
It is. Yeah.
Life isn't fair. Sports isn't fair. Whatever you do is not fair. And that's
and unfortunately,
something you have to accept.
Unfortunately, a lot of it, especially at least here in the States, has to do with money. If you have more money, generally, that doesn't mean that you're going to be happier, but generally things can be easier.
It gives you the means to make a happier life for yourself and a life that you want, compared to someone that doesn't have those, where they're just put at a less of an advantage, basically.
It buys a whole lot of convenience.
Doesn't buy happiness.
Yeah.
It buys something that you can maybe be a little bit happier about in a certain moment, which you can use as like a snowball effect almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like, so throughout this whole movie, I mean, they're underdogs, right? And they're looked down on, and it was pretty cool because I actually saw this movie in theaters back in 2011 with my dad.
It's crazy that this movie came out 10 plus years ago.
I know,
12 years ago by the time.
And I remember in like middle school and high school, like people would read the books, and it had like Brad Pitt's face on it and stuff like that from the movie. And But yeah, I remember watching this with my dad, and it was really funny because I watched this movie today, and my dad walked in, and he goes, and we're 20 minutes in, and he goes, "Is that Moneyball?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he sits down and watches it with me. He's down. He sits down with almost an hour, and he's seen this movie as many times as I have, which is a ton. And he's quoting it and stuff like that. And there's the baseball player. I think it's Chad something. I can look it up, but he kind of throws weird, and they show it in the movie. He like throws kind of down on a downward spiral.
Patterson.
Yeah, Chad Henderson, I think it is.
Patterson, I think.
Patterson? Okay. Yeah. But my dad goes right away. He goes, I remember him. Everyone would talk about how weird he'd throw, but he was one of the best pitchers that year because of the weird technique he'd use to throw the ball. You never knew which way he'd come. And then I asked my dad too while we were watching the movie, because I I've Googled it and stuff like that and looked into it. And I'm like, Dad, how big was the streak, the 20-game win streak? How big of a deal was that? And he was like, it was everywhere. It's everything everyone would talk about. It was on newspapers, on the news.
That's awesome.
Yeah, on everything, radio stations. He's like, it was such a big deal. It was insane. So it was cool to talk to him about that too, and to get his point of view. I mean, we were only like 3 back in 2002.
Are they the
right?
only team ever?
Yeah, they still hold the record, I believe.
No,
maybe someone's taken over since, but
okay.
Yeah, they still hold the record. I could look into it, but yeah, they had broken the record that year, and it was something like unforgettable. I mean, he remembered where he was, like watching that 20th game that they won, right?
I mean, that is kind of crazy for like any sports team anywhere in the world to just go 20 games straight is kind of a big deal.
Well, is that game where they threw in Chris Pratt's character, which I misspoke on. He's Scott Hatberg. So I don't know the name of the relief pitcher that you're talking about with the weird throw, but
hold on, I have the name right here. It's Chad Bradford.
Okay. So is that game where they were up big and the other team came back, and they threw Chris Pratt character in and he hit the game-winning home run? Is that kind of true? What actually happened in real life?
It is all true. Yep.
Really?
Yep. Yeah. There's even I saw a thing where like that player was supposed to use a bat that he was being sponsored by, and he just grabbed his teammate's bat on accident and just got that iconic home run and won the game with, and it was the wrong bat, so he got like in trouble and fined for a ton of money. Okay, so it says right here the longest American League winning streak is 22 by the 2017 Cleveland Indians. So it's since been passed, but still, to be that team where like you're the most underrated team, the underdog in a rebuild at the beginning of a rebuild, giving all those players away to go on that streak, that part of the movie is like, I mean, perfection. It gets you so hype, and
it is the movie, to be fair.
Literally, yeah. I mean, and it doesn't start till an hour and 30 in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I love that part so much.
I think I've only seen this movie twice in my whole life.
Really?
Yeah, I watched it for the first time probably, I'm gonna say like 3 years ago. Actually, it was when the pandemic started, so like 2020.
Oh, really?
It was the first time
I waited that long?
Yeah, I swear to God.
Really?
And then I recently watched it again this year because it's been on Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't believe they're taking it off. That sucks.
Instantly, like as soon as you said to do this, though, like this movie, Josh, because it's your recommendation, I was, yeah. It wasn't even one that I was like, oh yeah, no, it was a good movie. Like right away, I was like, oh yeah, nope, I remember that one.
Yeah.
This is definitely a movie that if you haven't seen it and you've gone as long as I did, like I said, I mean, I think it was 10 years for me until I saw it after it came out. Definitely watch this one.
Yeah, I mean, because this movie does have like just about everything when it comes to like comedy, makes you laugh, and emotion.
Great
it's got
cast,
a ton of emotion
too.
Great cast.
The cast is crazy.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I think they mentioned in that YouTube video from Ben, but like these are all real baseball players. They're not just like actors.
That's something I was going to bring up too. So
yeah.
Apparently Chris Pratt was talking about the movie on tour, and he said he would take this team versus any other team within a movie like of all time, just because of how many actual baseball players that they had on the team itself.
Yeah. Which that's pretty funny. I mean, and they honestly probably would win, right?
Oh, 1,000,000%.
Just from all that experience and stuff.
90% of their team, 90+% of their team is actual MLB players. So I can only imagine.
Yeah, and I like that part too, where Bennett Miller's calling Chris Pratt like a pussy and all that stuff too. I like that part. And
and he's mumbling it in the actual movie in the scene.
Yeah, what a cool that was.
Why is
I
he
would
calling me a pussy?
I would have never known that if that wasn't for that video. I'll be completely honest. That's cool though. I mean, it got him in character and it made it more realistic. Pretty awesome.
That reminds me of like I forgot the movie, but there's been a couple movies where like the main villain of a movie won't talk to a certain like character, like a young character in the movie, just because they want the character to be actually scared of them when they
Well, yeah,
see
that
him
just
on
happened
set or something.
with Home Alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's what I
Uh,
was thinking of.
yeah, Pesci didn't want to talk to
Hmm.
what's his name?
McLaughlin.
Yeah, and to actually have him be scared of him. But yeah, and I read too. I read when I was looking stuff up for this movie that I guess Chris Pratt, auditioned to play Hatterberg, and he got turned down, I guess, because his weight. He was a little too big. If you watch Parks and Recs,
Yeah. Because
and
this was in between Parks and Rec
and Guardians.
and
Yeah,
Guardians.
so Chris Pratt would literally start working out and would call the director every week to ask him, "Hey, is the part taken yet? Is the part taken yet?" And he was just working out, and then finally he just got the job. And I mean, this movie obviously went on to win awards, and I think Jonah Hill doesn't he win an Oscar for this movie? Pretty sure Brad Pitt, one of them do. Yeah, he won something for Moneyball.
One of them should have 100% because
I'm pretty sure he did. I can
just
look it up.
that trio alone in a movie, like 10 plus years ago. Imagine now how much it costs to have them in a movie.
I think Jonah Hill doesn't get enough credit because of how he's kind of like made his acting career be like the goofball. You know what I mean? But he does a really good job. They kind of mentioned that in the YouTube video, but it made me think too. I was like, he's really good in these more serious roles too. Like I would love to see most of his roles are kind of he's a jackass.
He's almost plays himself in most of his
movies, yeah.
Just because he's a funny guy. But no, you're definitely right. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to remember that these people are actors and they're actual people outside of the screen and who they portray, and they're probably completely different from who they portray on the screen. Obviously, a little bit different for Jonah Hill just because he's been in so many comedy roles and he's a funny person in real life.
Exactly.
From what you can tell from other people that say it. They know him in real life actually, but yeah, it goes to show you that people are actors, they're good at their job and they're versatile.
100%.
Yeah, so this movie was nominated for an Oscar for Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Sound Mixing, and Best Film Editing.
Really?
That's correct. Like, that's insane.
Did they win any of that?
Let's see. I know they didn't win Best Picture that year.
Okay.
Yes, Brad Pitt won. Brad Pitt won for the movie, and
this might
Jonah
be
Hill.
And Jonah Hill.
Yep.
Okay. This might be my favorite Brad Pitt role of all time, to be honest with you.
I think so. I mean, this and like Fight Club are like peak Brad Pitt, and they're like, I mean, that's two different times, right?
Or everybody that rated Bullet Train so high. Let's put Bullet Train up there as his best performance. Fuck anybody that says Bullet Train's better than Breaking.
Dude, I'm telling you, that is such a bad take. If you listen
Such a bad take.
Listen to our last video. It was our first in-person episode that we've ever done. Got to finally meet Mike here. I've never seen him in real life.
Yeah, and then too, like, to talk about the score of this movie, it's personally one of my favorites in any movie, I think. Honestly, I was trying to think of like other movies where I really like the score. Like, there's movies like obviously Guardians and stuff like that with a soundtrack, right? But I mean, like an actual score.
Fucking Interstellar.
Yeah, Interstellar's up there for sure.
We have to do Interstellar. Man.
Oh, we will.
I really think I think that's truthfully my favorite movie.
The Lord of the Rings. Oh wait, you haven't seen them, Josh.
Yeah, but the score, as I've heard, is insane in that too. To give that credit, I mean, sure, and there's like Jaws and stuff like that too, but like this movie, I mean,
Jurassic Park.
Oh yeah, Jurassic Park. The Mighty
Star
Rio
Wars.
Grande.
Sorry,
yeah, that's all Hans Zimmer though. We're all just talking about the same dude over and over again.
Not everything.
Most of those movies are, but he's like the GOAT when it comes to
kind of
that anyway. But yeah, the Mighty Rio Grande, which is performed by This Will Destroy You. And then The Show, which is performed by Karis Dorsey, who's actually the little girl actress. She got the gig by like actually just singing the song. It's how she got casted. So
really, that's cool.
So, yeah, cool. She's a good singer.
It's I can only imagine how interesting it'd be to like cast certain roles that you have for a movie. Like you're in complete control of putting whoever you want in this role of this huge movie that this
Yeah,
company's
you've
gonna
got to have
spend
such a
millions
good
of dollars on.
good eye for that too, like to know. Like I was just watching something on that, how like in a movie you think like you don't even if like for example like the people that do the wardrobe, if it's really good, you don't even think about it. You just think like, oh yeah, that fits, but it's in
Yeah,
the
they
back of
good.
your head. But if it's bad or it looks out of place, you'll notice it right away. And it's like that kind of stuff that you don't even think about, that there's actually someone like taking the attention to detail to be like, oh no, they should be wearing an orange coat in these scenes because
There is probably so many roles. Like I was just looking on Twitter today. Like, I know this is completely off topic, but
yeah.
there's literally a role for the Seahawks where there's a guy on the sidelines that makes sure Pete Carroll doesn't run into anybody else in the sidelines or like get involved with like the refs. Like he's
Sean
literally
McVay
just
is that guy too.
he's just standing there next to
Yeah.
Pete Carroll all game, just making sure he doesn't bump into people. Like imagine that being your job, working 4 hours, not even 4 hours, like 3 hours every Sunday, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's literally it. I'm sure there's more to it, obviously, but
Well, yeah, because like I think like Sean McVay for the Rams too, like he has a guy who holds him back from going on the field because like he always tries to walk on the field when he's
hold me back,
walking.
bro. Hold me back.
Yeah. Yeah, literally. So
But no, just to
We're
kind of
gonna
tie
pay you
that.
$40,000 a year to just grab
Oh,
probably
some
more
you
than that.
could. I probably volunteer. Just pay for my flight, pay for my food
yeah,
expenses and all that. I'll go sit on the
just watch the
sidelines
game.
and
Yeah.
pull Sean McVay back from
Like an
getting his ass
internship.
beat. Yeah, literally. Put that on my resume. See how cool that'd be. But just to kind of tie it back into just what we're talking about here, there's so many roles with just big leagues and big entertainment like the NFL and movies and just kind of that industry in general. Entertainment, I think, would be the best way to put it, that we just really don't think about.
Yeah.
Especially with movies. Like there's so much that go into movies that people like, yeah, they get like their name put on the end with the credits and all that stuff, but they really do not get enough credit.
No.
Not really.
No, but like I don't know what it is about the mighty Rio Grande, but like when I hear that score, it like gives me chills every time. I don't know why, and I've seen this movie so many times. And like I'll find myself sometimes when I'm on YouTube and I'm bored and I'm doing something else in the background, I'll just throw on this whole soundtrack or whatever, right? Because
It'd be good studying music.
no, dude,
Yeah.
it's like relaxing but inspiring.
Yeah.
I put on the Lord of the Rings music if I have to do that kind of
Really?
shit now. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Josh, we gotta watch that, man.
I know after watching that, like those are
We're
three good
fucking we're
movies.
lame
yeah,
for
we
not
will. We
being
will.
on that train, man.
We will. Especially with this podcast. But
Yeah.
yeah, just to give that the score the credit. I mean, obviously we couldn't talk about it without mentioning that, right?
Yeah.
And
Hey
then
Josh, really
yeah,
quick. That's a nice hat back there. It'd be really awesome if I had one. Andrew, do you know how I can get that at all?
this one.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
See it on
Mike.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Actually, I thought I paid you for one. And what'd you do with it? You gave it Secret Santa to somebody?
Oh
What
yeah.
elephant?
Yeah, White Elephant. I was just trying to promote us. Which
Yeah. You
yeah,
heard it
Mike,
here
Marcus,
first.
I told you
Andrew
we got
gave
30
away
orders
my
after that.
small guy's hat.
yeah, Mike, your hat should be coming in 7 to 14 business days, or at least
Thank
that's
you
what
for
they said.
that. Just in time for, Valentine's Day. So I can wear
Exactly.
it on my date out.
There you go. I should have it shipped to me. I could give it away for Valentine's Day.
Fucking asshole. Go on, Josh. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Another thing from Ben's video, which I didn't know until I watched it, was Ken Medlock, who plays Grady Fusion, was a actual baseball player. In the movie, he's a scout for the Oakland A's that ends up getting fired. But anyway, yeah, so he was an actual baseball player that really hated Billy Beane in real life.
And what he did.
Even to this day, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and what he did to the sport of baseball. So they had him, be the scout and yell at Billy Beane, and like that was awesome. Knowing that,
Yeah,
that's like the perfect person to cast for that role.
There's literally not a more perfect cast for that.
No,
No.
and to not really be an actual actor, I think he did a great job too.
Absolutely.
Again, like there's no one really you knock in this, and like throughout the movie, it's like the character development for the character for Billy and like Peter too. It's like they're complete opposite people. They are yin and yang. Like they'd probably never become friends in the real world outside of baseball, but it's their love for baseball that brought them together and make them this dynamic duo that like one couldn't succeed without the other, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really like the conversation that they have in the movie when they're talking about cutting players. Billy wants Peter to start traveling with the team, but Peter asks Billy why can't he? And Billy basically explains that it's harder for him to cut these players if he builds like an emotional connection with them. So he tries to keep his distance from them. Doesn't go really in the clubhouse, doesn't watch the games, doesn't go and travel with the team, but he wants Peter to. He even has Peter like practicing cutting him and stuff like that. But anyway, throughout the movie, Brad Pitt slowly starts to learn that he has to change things and start going into the clubhouse and start interacting with these players and talking to them as he is a previous player of the MLB. I mean, it shows flashbacks of when Billy was younger, getting drafted and stuff like that, right? Not even going to college and went straight to the MLB. And yeah, so like that's pretty powerful too. It's like as he gets more and more connected throughout the movie to these players, he then has to cut one when there's about 30 minutes left, right before the streak starts.
Yeah.
And him cutting this player, we watched him cut players earlier on in the movie, but watching him cut this player, you could tell the emotion in his face that it was way harder on him to do than like ever before. And that was his big fear, was getting too connected and being this jinx, right? That's why he doesn't watch the games, is being afraid of being these jinx and costing these guys these games and stuff like that. So that's why the character development in this movie, even like for Jonah Hill's character, who's like really shy and quiet at the beginning of the movie, and like you could just tell the dude loves baseball, and he's full of emotions, but he just has a shell where he doesn't show it to people. But over time he connects with Billy and even the players themselves. It's really cool to watch both these characters grow in different ways.
Yeah,
I
I
agree.
mean, I was gonna say it does really show from the beginning to the end. Like you get to watch, and they work so well together, Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill, which is like this like weird combo that you would not even, at least in my head, you would not think about, like that would match up so well. Maybe it could kudos to the writers and the director, but just those two, their chemistry in this, it's pretty damn awesome.
Yeah, and it goes to show why they got their Oscars, right?
Yeah.
Just from this performance.
But it's funny. I can see that being a relationship that like, you can really like see working. It's almost like the most unexpected things, like even like with dating, like someone, you don't want someone to be exactly like you, because more times than not you're gonna find a way to like actually like get mad about something or argue. But like you find someone that's a little bit different but still similar in the same way, and you find something that can kind of pull you together and just be the reason why you're together in the first place, like them obviously. And look how that goes.
Good
like opposites attract.
Good transition into our sponsor here today, Mike. Just kidding, not quite.
Match.com. As you if you're looking for a loved one, if you're at home and you're single,
don't go there. We're not
lonely,
paid by them.
And just like Aiden Bender, you're still a virgin at almost 25 years old.
There's no app for you. You're fucked.
Use Small Guys Pod for 25% off your first month of your membership here.
That code disclaimer may or may not work. We don't know for sure.
And another disclaimer, it doesn't work. We're not sponsored by Match.com, but
if you're 25 and still a virgin, then you're probably fucked. But there's a movie around 40. Yeah. So all you got to do is beat 40. You have 14 years to beat it. Aiden, we're rooting for you, buddy. Everything in our power, we're going to try to help you just really lose that virginity, man, because we don't want that movie to be.
What's the hashtag again?
Fingers crossed.
Hashtag pray Aiden get some bitches, but it's pray with an E instead of an A.
Because after the movie Pray, yes. Okay, for anyone that thought they were smart and was telling Mike that he was spelling it wrong, no, it's after the movie. You're just
on Hulu.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hulu. Check it out.
And just to take one more thing from Ben's video, really go check it out. It's really good. I liked when he kind of explained the Brad Pitt working out scenes. He's not like Mike trying to get jacked or anything or win any comps. He just wants to work out to kind of blow off energy, right? To make an escape and I'm sure that's why people work out in real life too, right? Is for that escape and to be healthy and to get their minds off things, right? But I like how it shows that like they start to win and he's working out and everything like that and grinding away, and then right there in that last game he's not working out anymore. He's just kind of sitting there staring off to the abyss. He's not really working out anymore because he's already put in all that work, right?
Yeah.
I liked how they kind of showed that and went about that too. So
Well, that's one thing I really like about that video. We'll link it here and pretty much everything that we can for the
Yeah,
Ben
it'll
from
be on
Canada video.
we'll on our we put our video on YouTube, so I will link that video on the YouTube in the description.
Go watch it though. Seriously, it's a great video. But like how he explains that like this movie is so realistic because yeah, like you're supposed to like have that like that charming like, oh, we're underdogs, we're gonna work hard and things are gonna go our way. But more times than not in real life, that's not how it works. You
no,
know, that
Unfortunately, yeah.
little tedious stuff that you just like have to sit through and bear through and just really hope that you just really can break that wall. That's how it is more times than not. And I really like how they still find a way to make it charming and entertaining with this movie, just showing that side of just winning and getting past a certain hump or getting past a certain thing that's, you know, just in your way. It's not sexy more times than not, and they still find a way to kind of make it entertaining in this movie, and I think that's what makes it so great, and that's probably why it resonates with a lot of people.
Yeah, because I mean, in this movie, and it's this kind of a deeper life lesson in the movie, a lot of what it shows is like they're looking for players that are getting the most points consistently. They want the people that are scoring the most all the time, not the guy that shows up and gets a grand slam once in a while and is really good on TV. They needed the players that are consistently bringing in points. And I feel like that's kind of I feel like that's kind of an underlying message in this movie that like you you genuinely don't really always have to be the best at something and be the star, but if you're consistent and you are working together in a lot of ways, those results are going to show eventually.
And I think that's why Brad Pitt is shown so much in the gym throughout the whole movie up until the end, just because like it's like mirroring in a sense of like all of his hard work and all the team's hard work.
Yeah.
He's constantly in the gym waiting for this outcome, and the team's constantly practicing and playing all these games, waiting for an outcome to win a World Series. And obviously that doesn't happen, but for the most part, like it's mirroring in a sense of like Brad Pitt is working so hard up until a certain point, up until that very last scene where he's like just in the gym, but he's not working out at the end of that 20-game win streak. And at that point, it's like, okay, I just got to trust my work, and I have to trust that everything I've done up until this point is going to pay off. And obviously it does for just that game. But it's a really cool life lesson, honestly. And it's cool how they mirror that with Brad Pitt's character and how Bennett Miller does that with just kind of his directing. And just really tying that in with the team itself and just kind of making something that we can kind of look at and point to when it comes to just the theme and the tone of the movie.
Yeah, and he has too like documentary backgrounds and stuff too, which works perfect for this movie being based off a true story. But the part where like Brad Pitt's driving down the road and his daughter calls him and it's game 20 and she's like, Dad, please turn around. You're not a jinx. Go watch the game, please. You like earn this. And you know, he's like, no, I can't do it. He hangs up on her and then he ends up turning around anyway and going back to watch the game. And he gets there and he's watching, and then they start making the comeback and start losing the game. And you know, so then he goes back in the gym and sits down, has his head down and everything like that. And then right then and there you hear like the bat hit the ball and his head just pops up, and it's like it's really a beautiful movie, and it's insane how well they that whole part of that movie, like we said earlier, the streak, right? It's incredible.
It is
it's incredible film, like right there, like, and that's to go to prove, like, you know, shout out to Ben who knows nothing about baseball yet. This is still his favorite movie of all time because he enjoys movies.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So,
it's cool too with that scene where the coach has been just this complete asshole, as Ben from Canada has talked about. Like this coach is just this asshole who has been nothing but just a bad mood killer, all that stuff. And he finally decides to put the rookie in that Chris Pratt's character, who Brad Pitt has been, his character Billy Bean has just been killing to put him in for this whole time. And you know, finally it pays off. He puts him in, and obviously he scores, or he hits home game-winning home run. And just that scene alone, just even talking about that, just it gives me chills in a sense, just remembering like when I watched it for the first time.
Yeah, and they earn that throughout the movie because like Billy and Art Howe are like arguing back and forth, like, and Art Howe like is thinking they're tanking or they're in a rebuild, and he's worried about what his job's going to be next year, and he wants to be able to have, you know, good statistics going into his next interview as to why he should be a head coach somewhere else, right? And basically him and Billy's character go back and forth, and he's like, well, I'm going to start the best players for the team that you assembled for me. And Billy's like, no, I want you to start Hattenberg and all these other players, and he doesn't want to. So it got to the point where like Billy had to cut the players above them. So that way Art Howe was forced to play them in situations like that. And, you know, so for him, like Mike said, for Art Howe at the very end to decide to put him in at bat and everything like that is awesome. So, and it's earned. So,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and to kind of talk about kind of the end of the movie, Brad Pitt's character, Billy Bean, is invited to the Boston Red Sox. And he is offered $12.5 million to be their new GM. After
Where's the pen? Where's the paper? That's what
after the one season in Oakland,
Sell
he gets
out.
this job offer, and it would make him the highest paid GM of all time for any sport. That's insane. And yeah, so I love that part so much. The whole Boston scene where he's like explaining as to why he'd want him, and that's when we were talking earlier about the numbers, how it took the Yankees like 1.4 million a game and took them only 256,000 or whatever. And to accomplish that same record is insane, and just basically breaks down all that stuff. And although you're watching, you're like, oh, I kind of hope he doesn't take it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like he won't take it, but he should take it. Like, you're kind of torn watching the scene as to whether or not he should accept it or not. And so is the character. And I like that a lot.
Well, yeah, because that's real. I mean, it kind of comes down to like, what's his mental, like, can he be bought? I wonder, like, had they offered him $30 million, like some obscene amount of money, would he have just been like, it just, okay, it makes no sense for me to stay at that point. I guess it was like, that just wasn't high enough for him to kind of let his own mentality be like, no, I built this. I want to stick with this team.
Well, plus too, like he says right after the scene, when he's talking to Peter, Jonah Hill's character, that he already, when he was younger, made a decision based off money, and that was going to MLB first round.
Mm-hmm.
And that he would never make a decision about money again.
Makes sense.
And so for him to stick to his word, for being a GM, I think that's really powerful too. And I'm sure, like, obviously his daughter lives in California, right in Oakland too. So, it gives him another reason to stay there. And, he now believes that you don't really have to win games. You don't win games just from stars. You can win games from, the statistics and the players around the whole team, not just like 2 or 3 good guys. Right.
Yeah.
So,
and it's funny. It's funny when you say that, because Andrew kind of gave that spiel of like him being more of like an analytical person and basing a lot of the decisions off numbers. And I'm the complete opposite. I am more of an emotional person, and I definitely base a lot of decisions off of emotions more times than not. And I think there is pros and cons to both sides. Obviously, you have to be more analytical when it comes to business, and obviously more emotional when it comes to relationships. And I'm sure there's probably a lot of other things that we can both talk about for both sides. And it's just kind of cool to see more of like that emotional side when it comes to his character with that decision of turning down, $12.5 million a year to become the highest paid GM of all time for any sport.
And that's the thing too, is like, and before the season or halfway through the season, the media is ripping into him and everything like that. And if he were to get fired, he would just be a 44-year-old with a high school degree. That's literally all he would be. Right. Yeah. So he all his cards were on the table. And even when they start winning, they showed at the beginning of the streak montage, they win 7 in a row. And right away they go, this is credit to Art Howe on the news. Because, without this coach coaching these guys, this team would suck. It's all credit to him. And Peter Brand, Jonah Hill's character, is watching, and he's like, do you hear that? He's saying that to Billy, and he's like, all I heard was 7 wins in a row. It's like he didn't even care. He doesn't care about the credit or anything like that. Yeah. He just wants to do his job, get them the wins, build this legacy that he wants. And
better man than I am. Better man than I am. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Not that I'm this selfish asshole, but if some asshole coach
Mike wants to hear his fucking name.
Yeah, say my fucking name and say what I did, and give me some fucking credit when it's deserved.
Yeah.
You got any trivia for this one, Josh?
I do.
Okay. I only have one fact. I told you before, but I'll let you.
Yeah, and just to mention, they showed at the end of the film, right before the credits show, he did turn down the Boston offer. He stayed with the Oakland A's as their GM. Boston, the Red Sox went on to win the World Series 2 years later using Billy Beane's methods. So, which that's kind of, he's a jinx, right? So that's kind of like, it is kind of funny too at the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
And that actually happens in real life?
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
So I think they won in 2004, the World Series. And they hadn't won since 1918 or something crazy like that. Like it had been a long ass time since they had won the World Series.
Oh, I think that's the one with Manny Ramirez.
Yeah.
And all those play. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so I have a few here. Since there was no money to shoot in all the stadiums the Oakland Athletics visited, Dodger Stadium was dressed up as 8 different ballparks. That's pretty cool.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I mentioned this one earlier when Chris Pratt auditioned for the role. He was told he was too fat. Pratt decided to lose weight before the role was cast. He said, "I'd check maybe once a week, if not more." He recalls that he'd say, "Did they cast anyone yet?" And I would just keep working out, he said. Finally, I got in good enough shape that I took a picture of myself and sent it to my agent, and he won the role. I think that's really cool. He didn't lose hope right away, and he kept working at it, just like the whole message behind this whole movie. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, Chris Pratt does a great job in this. The director was so impressed with Kira Dorsey's singing the show that in her audition that he not only cast her as the protagonist's daughter, but he let her sing the 2008 song twice in the movie, which was set in 2002, sacrificing its historical authenticity. The A's won the AL West again in 2012 with the lowest payroll in Major League Baseball and a record-setting 54 wins by rookie pitchers. The season was informally called Moneyball 2 by the fans and the press. That's pretty cool.
Wow, that's cool.
Yep.
Because that was a year after Moneyball actually came out then.
Yep.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is cool. During a meeting with scouts discussing players, one scout
Josh? All right, well, stay tuned with some technical difficulties here with Josh.
I have a few more here. Okay, during the meeting with the scouts discussing players, one scout dismisses a player for having an ugly girlfriend, translating this as the player that has no confidence. The story that the Athletics scout didn't want the player because he didn't have an attractive girlfriend is apparently true, but in the real world, he cited that this is a meaning of bad eyesight, which I don't know if that's true or not, but apparently it is. I thought it was ridiculous when I heard it in the movie, though. I was like, there's no way that guy actually said that. Billy Beane is portrayed as a lonely divorcee. In real life, he remarried. Scenes were shot with Catherine Morris, who played his second wife. They didn't make the final cut, though they're included in the Blu-ray extras, I guess. And Brad Pitt's character still wears a wedding ring throughout the movie, so I didn't even notice that. The crew had only one day to shoot the scenes that when Billy goes and visits Fenway Park in Boston. It was a rainy day and really gloomy out, but it kept and worked perfect for the final film. The Oakland A's set a new American League record of consecutive wins with 20. It's the all-time Major League record is 26, which has been set by the New York Giants in 1916, including one tie, without ties. The record belongs now to the 2017 Cleveland Indians with 22 straight wins, which you mentioned earlier. And my last fact before Andrew gives his is this is the first baseball movie to be nominated for the Best Picture Academy Award since Field of Dreams in 1989.
Damn.
Pretty cool.
Which was
when did 42 come out?
42 came out, I believe, in 2009.
Okay.
It's crazy because this is our second baseball movie rewind.
It is actually
for us not being huge baseball fans, but they're two completely different movies, I'd say.
Yeah,
I
very
used to be
different.
I used to be really big into baseball, especially after high school when I played it, and I just haven't got into it the past couple 5-7 years. I think baseball has kind of died down in terms of just the major sports when it comes to.
I played it when I was younger. That's about it.
Well, and our team, the Detroit Tigers, aren't the best right now.
Well, yeah, that too. The Tigers fucking suck dick, so
yeah.
It's hard for us to root for something, but go Lions, baby. That's the best team in
yeah.
The Red Wings have been better recently.
Oh, that's
yeah, they're like the only good Detroit team right now, probably.
Yeah.
Pistons are out here blowing leads and stuff.
14 points in the last 3 minutes. That's crazy. Pistons do better. Dwayne Casey, you should be fired.
The one fact that I had is right now, at least in like 2023, is that there's this big scandal going on with the company FTX. It's supposedly going to be the biggest fraud in the history of the United States. So it's like a cryptocurrency company. Fraud is going to be around like $30+ billion. The CEO is facing over 100 years in prison.
Life in
But
prison.
what'd you say?
Life in prison.
Yeah. Life in prison. He's young too. He's only 30, so his whole life will possibly be spent in prison. That'll to be seen. But where I was going with this and to tie in with the movie is apparently the writer of The Big Short and Moneyball, Michael Lewis, I believe is his name, was
Yep.
apparently just meeting with that guy that was the CEO. So I imagine some sort of money or story coming out of that from the same guy that made this movie.
Probably a book and a movie, huh?
Probably, yeah.
Most likely. Yeah, because there's literally a book and a movie on both The Big Short and Moneyball, obviously. So
Yeah, and I just read that probably like 30 minutes prior to recording this.
yeah.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
No, that is crazy, and that definitely will be a big story.
Yep.
It's interesting to see how that will fold out too.
Yeah.
Definitely some prison. There's got to be if this is.
I
big,
hope there's some
know?
prison time for that guy, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Do we want to roll into scores?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can go first here. This is Josh's movie, so I think we should let him go last if we're being
Okay.
honest.
Yeah, it's fine with me.
Start the New Year's off in a little different pace. Let Josh finish us off.
I like that.
I can try that.
I like a different change of pace when it comes to finishing off. So that's just me.
Yeah, no, I agree. You get used to the same thing every time, you know.
I know it gets boring after a while, unless that person is really good. So Andrew, this is your chance to kind of take a step back and rethink.
Okay, I'll try and get
yeah.
Go ahead.
But this movie is great, man. This is one of my favorite sport movies of all time, even though it's really not a sport movie, if we're being honest, like we talked about here. Just that trio, Brad Pitt, Jonah Hill, and Chris Pratt is probably one of my favorite trios of any movie of all time, to be honest with you. And I think it's pretty safe to say that this movie is at the bare minimum a top 100 movie of all time. Probably more in the top 50 of all time for a lot of people, and maybe even top 25 when it comes to overall movies. But everything is great about this movie, just kind of how it ties into just real life problems and how realistic it is with those problems. And just like we talked about, the score and just the pace of the movie and the character development, everything from it is just mint, as Aiden would say. So with that said, I'll give this a 93 out of 100.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
Good score.
I'm right next to you with my score. You said a lot there, Mike. I don't have a ton to say on this movie just because it is really, really good. It's one that you don't have to know a lot about baseball. They do a really good job of breaking down what they're going to do with like the statistics and everything on a very easy pace. They say like, we're just looking for players that get on base the most. And you don't have to know anything about baseball to know that that's important to score runs, to get people in and to win. So they do a really good job of that with, it's not too much of a baseball movie. It feels not too gritty, but it feels real. I'm not sure how they pull that off, but this movie feels very real the entire time you're watching it, which makes me happy. It's something that not a lot of movies, they feel a little bit animated, maybe a little out of touch. This feels like you could possibly be there. I don't know what it is exactly. I can't nail it down. I don't know if it's the writing, if it's the camera angles, if it's the lighting, whatever it is. They do a really good job with that. With that said, I fall pretty much right in line with Mike. I did go one point higher. I had it written down. I went with a 94 on this movie. Right into that category where I would say it's a must watch at least once. If you haven't seen it, check it out. I hope you have. I went quite a while without seeing it. But definitely check this one out. Moneyball is worth your time.
Top 100 movie of all time?
Yeah, I think so. I think you could throw it in top 50.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
I know top 50 is there's a lot of great movies, and I think top 50 could be debatable.
I think you could throw this in the top 50 list.
At the bare minimum, top 100 movie of all time, I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously everyone's opinion is different. That's why we do these out of 100 scores and stuff like that. And um, when you really break down what this movie is, it's not just a baseball movie and it's not just a statistics movie and all this other stuff. And when it comes to baseball, it's not my favorite sport. It's something that I don't even know much about. Like I don't know much of the players, I guess, and athletes' names and stuff like that. I'll just turn on a game every here and there, and so I wouldn't even consider myself really that big of a baseball fan. And math, I hate math. I really hate math and everything like that. But that's not really what this movie's really about. It's an underdog story. It's about defying the odds and overcoming something and grinding through things and being consistent and not losing that hope and being confident in yourself. All very powerful things that I want to live my life by. I think the acting is like some of the best you can get. I think the score is one of the best you can get. I think the emotions one of the best you can get. I mean, I still have chills. I still have chills watching this movie, and I've seen it 11, 12 times probably. I mean, you know, even when YouTube videos and clips pop up for this thing, I watch it, and it's to the point where I'm sending these guys, this Ben from Canada video, where he explains the movie. I mean, it's tough to explain why I love this movie as much as I do. I'm 23 years old, and I've seen a lot of movies. I feel like, and I love movies. There's been points in my life where I've watched movies consistently every day for months. And I think I probably have maybe 11 or 12 movies that I consider 100, and this is one of them.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, this is my second 100 for movie. That one was Shawshank. And yeah, I just feel like for all the reasons I've kind of listed off, it deserves it. I feel like it is a perfect movie. I've heard people say before, like, it's tough giving a movie 100. I don't think I'll ever do it, or I don't think there's that perfect 100 movie out there. If you don't think there's a perfect 100 movie out there, then what do you know? What compares? How do you know to compare a certain movie to? You know what I mean? Like you kind of need that perfect movie to compare something off, and there doesn't just need to be one 100. Like I said, for me, I think I have like 11 or 12 movies that I'd consider a perfect 100 movie, and like I said, Shawshank's in there, and this is definitely in there too. Not in specific order, but they're both hundreds to me. So yeah.
I like that a lot. I think
Yeah.
I think we have a pretty balanced rating for this movie out of all three of us. There's gonna be people that absolutely love this movie, like you, Josh, that are just like one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah.
And there's gonna be people like me and Andrew who kind of just great movie, watch it, everything
Yeah, I mean,
about this
90s
movie
is
is
high.
great.
You know what I mean?
No,
It's like,
Yeah, no,
absolutely.
I consider pretty much, at least in my head, when I give these ratings at the end, anything in the 90s as a must watch at least once. That's how I view a lot. Like these are movies that you gotta spend some time and watch them at least once in your life. You may not love it as much as like Mike just said, like as much as you, Josh. It might not be 100, but check it out. You're gonna, if we're throwing out something in the 90s, I don't see how this is a movie that someone comes out of. This is a 5.
no.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna.
You gotta have something where Brad Pitt like fucked your girlfriend back in 1990 or something like that. Like, you gotta
Yeah,
hate
it's
like
gonna have to
be
be
an honor.
pretty. It's gonna have to be pretty personal.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's funny that we talked a lot about Jonah Hill in this movie because the next rewind we're doing is also Jonah Hill. We're doing Wolf of Wall Street. And then our next episode though will be Glass Onion Knives Out story. It's on Netflix right now too. And then next Tuesday will be Wolf of Wall Street with Jonah Hill in it also. So this will be I think that'll be our third rewind with Jonah Hill in it. This is the end, this and then that. So he's a great actor.
You know what we should do with him? We should check out War Dogs. That's a good
War
one.
Dogs, that's a good movie too. Yeah, Miles Teller too.
Yeah, that's a good one. But thank you for everyone that is listening, and we're excited for 2023 and Small Guys.
That's a great way to start it off.
Small Guys podcast here. We wish we could have got Brian and Aiden on as much as we talk shit about them. We could have would love to. We hope to see them on the next episode. If you haven't checked it out, listen to our last episode where we go over our top 10 movies of the year, each of us. Spoiler, a lot of them were pretty similar. There was a lot of overlapping, so definitely listen.
And we'll have the list on our website too, right?
Yep, that'll be on the website.
Anyone wants to look.
Yep.
Smallguyspod.com.
Yep, or Small Guys Podcast. You can type in either; it'll pop up. So be sure to check that out. Also, that is, like I said, I think a little earlier in this video, our first in-person episode. So check us out on YouTube, especially for that one. You can see what some of us look like in our smiling faces.
If you guys want to see how much bigger Josh is than me, definitely go check out that
I'm
video.
Yeah, I can't. That was the first time I ever saw Josh too.
Yeah, my muscles are
6'6".
popping through.
That
Yeah,
was amazing. He was so tall.
6'6", 220 pure muscle. It's crazy what some people look like on the internet versus a real person.
Real person, yeah.
Looks like a middle linebacker.
But obviously, as always, go show us some support if you can. Download on YouTube, Spotify, everything you can stream us on. Appreciate all the support as always, and Happy New Year's.
Yep.
Yes.
Happy New Year's. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
See ya.
See ya.